In this video chapter, we will cover an important preliminary step to any engine rebuild project. It is a step that should not be overlooked or underestimated. I'm referring to your selection of a workspace and tools. I recommend some careful thought to this aspect of the project since many hours will be spent in the assembly of the engine. That being said, let's begin with the workbench selection. I will be brief in this case since most of us probably already have a workbench. However, I do have one simple recommendation for you to consider that will enhance any workbench. This enhancement is the use of a white melamine board as your workbench surface. White melamine boards come in 8x4 and are found in any home improvement store. Usually, the board can be cut free of charge to your desired dimensions at the time of purchase. You may ask, why bother with this melamine board? Well, let me explain. Any debris or contaminants are incredibly easy to detect and clean off its surface, certainly much more than any wood or even metal surface. This is a very important characteristic to keep in mind because any minuscule particles that are on your workbench can potentially contaminate your engine components during preparation and assembly. This can seriously compromise the quality of your engine rebuild and affect the longevity and even performance of your engine in a negative way. In addition, I find the white semi-gloss melamine surface to be very comfortable on your eyes, especially if one is to work for several hours at a time. Here you can see my simple yet efficient and effective setup. I have one board cut to a dimension of 4 foot long and 2 foot wide, and placed on top of my existing stainless steel workbench. In addition, I had 2 more pieces cut to serve as my backsplash for the rear and right side of the workbench. I recommend this additional feature so that items do not roll off the edge accidentally. Once you begin working on this white melamine surface, you will really learn to appreciate its benefits. Next, let me recommend a few tools that will complement the usefulness of your workspace. I like the 500-watt halogen lamps. They are small and compact, but provide more than sufficient light. I don't use it as a direct light source since it is very bright, but instead I reflect it off the ceiling onto my workbench. Next is a simple air compressor. I used compressed air to make sure all my parts are cleaned before installation and assembly. Compressed air cans are also okay, but not as powerful or useful. In addition, I can also use the compressor to run pneumatic tools. If you don't already have a good toolbox, then this would be a good time to get one. A 911 engine does not require many tools to assemble, so theoretically you don't really need a large toolbox. However, if you have the space, I recommend one to keep your tools plus store some of your engine components prior to assembly. I find that a basic 3-piece toolbox that is 27 inches wide by approximately 60 inches high to do a nice job. It has a relatively small footprint, yet the bottom drawers are deep enough to hold some of the larger engine components. Ideally, the workbench and toolbox should be next to each other, but if space is at a premium, then you may simply keep your toolbox in a different location. I personally use the shelf under my workbench as an assembly staging area and keep most of my frequently used tools there as well to mitigate the necessity for the toolbox to be close by. The important thing is to have the workbench next to the engine stand, which we will discuss next. The 911 engine requires the use of a special engine yoke in order to mount to a typical engine stand. Here we can see the 911 engine yoke installed on a typical engine stand. Now, as a final note, also consider using a melamine board to place under the engine stand, specifically during the engine disassembly process. As one rotates the engine during disassembly, it will spill at least 2 quarts of additional oil. The cleanup will be very simple if the oil drips onto the melamine board. This is not as crucial a step or even necessary during the assembly process since the engine will be free of any fluids. Aside from the engine yoke and engine stand, let's talk about the tools that are specific to the 911 engine. I will mention that you will need an upfront expenditure, or as I like to call it, an investment in these tools. I recommend you perhaps pool resources with other Porsche friends to buy these tools in a group effort. Start with a good quality metric depth dial indicator with a 10mm range and an accuracy up to 1/100th of a millimeter. You will need it to adjust the mechanical timing of the engine. You will only need one to rebuild the engine. However, two of them would be ideal and more efficient. I personally own one and simply borrow the second one from a friend. The dial indicator comes with a 2-inch extension, as you see here. A special aluminum block to hold the dial indicator to the engine block is necessary. This is known as the P-207. In addition, there is the P-204, or the chain sprocket holder tool. This will be used to provide temporary tension on the timing chain during the timing procedure. A feeler gauge of 0.004 to adjust the valves. Next, an outside diameter micrometer with an accuracy of 1/10,000th of an inch is a good addition to your toolbox. The micrometer is used to measure tolerances on various components, such as the crank journals. This will set you back a couple of $100, but I prefer to have this highly accurate tool than to use a less accurate method. You may also have your local machine shop with a good reputation check your critical tolerances if you choose not to purchase a micrometer, as this is a nice to have but not a must-have tool. A digital caliper accurate to 1/100th of an inch. A 12mm start point Allen socket. You will need this to properly torque the flywheel. And finally, the camshaft sprocket wrench, P237. You will need this tool to install the camshafts and perform the engine timing procedure. Now, here is a list of standard tools that you should have available. First, a pneumatic grinder. This will be a great tool to have, especially if you invested on an air compressor already. A Dremel will also work. A high-quality set of feeler gauges. An assortment of wet sandpaper ranging from 300 to 1000 grit. Useful to prepare surfaces before the assembly. A small C-clamp. This can be useful during the assembly as well. A set of metric wrenches ranging from 8mm to 19mm. A set of Allen wrenches ranging from 2.5mm up to 10mm. A magnetic pickup tool. A few razor blades. A good quality metric socket set with a range of at least 10mm to 19mm. A pressure plate alignment tool. A metal wire brush and a long wire brush, as you see here, to clean hard to reach areas such as sections of the engine case halves. Several small, good quality paintbrushes. You will need them to apply various sealants and or lubricants in an accurate and precise manner. A rubber mallet to assist in the installation or removal of parts without causing any damage. A high quality torque wrench. The one you see here has a range of 10 foot-pounds up to 140 foot-pounds of torque. A 12-inch socket extension. This will be useful for the installation or removal of the rocker arms. A good quality piston ring compressor. Lastly, a few items not shown here. Nitrile gloves. Great to have during any cleaning, especially if using harsh solvents such as brake cleaner. Isopropyl or rubbing alcohol, plus a spray bottle. They both come very handy during any cleaning procedure. WD-40 and brake cleaner. Industrial strength paper towels to clean up your workbench surface. Finally, lint-free clean wipes. These are very useful and to be used in the last step of the cleaning process for any part before it is installed. One final thought for your consideration. When choosing the best location for your workspace, you may want to expand your options beyond your garage. I live in the Midwest, so during the winter months, the garage is not as inviting to perform highly detailed assembly work. Therefore, I chose to build my engine inside the house. A small, unused corner was perfect for the task. Once the engine long block was assembled, with the help of a couple of friends, we carried it to the garage for the rest of the assembly process. The engine is mostly aluminum, so 4 or even 3 people can easily carry the engine without any problem. For your convenience, a list of all the items seen here are available on my website and mobile application. In the next video chapter, we begin the assembly process starting with the engine case.